Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video. We are now at the World Cup point of the season, which means the championship is getting laid off for a matter of weeks, and I think it's time to update my championship table predictions. Some of them I've been fairly accurate with since the start of the season, some less so. So let's update it based on what we've seen so far and based on what I think could happen in the second half of the season after the World Cup. Obviously a lot can change, it's all opinions based, so feel free to get your predictions down below. Do make sure to drop a like, do subscribe as well, and we'll also have World Cup predictions coming to you tomorrow. Let's get into this then, starting down the bottom and working our way up. Starting then with my bottom three, I've gone for Blackpool, Hull City and Cardiff City. Now feel free to get your predictions for the bottom three down below. I feel like everyone's going to disagree because it is so tight down there that it could be a matter of goal difference which relegates some clubs. Now there's only one team in the division below a point per game, so what that suggests to me is this year we could get a higher tide than usual. 47, 48 points may be the requirements to stay up. Starting with Blackpool then, who came into this World Cup break on terrible form. They did just lose to Wigan 2-1 at the weekend, a game where they took the lead, but obviously they had a red card quite early in that one. I'd be gutted if Blackpool go down. I actually really like Blackpool and their fan base. They've got good players in Patino and Gary Medine, and I think there is a decent amount of players there. They've been fantastic to watch for neutrals because they've pulled out some incredible results. A 3-3 draw at Sheffield United, a 3-3 draw at Burnley, and they've beaten obviously Preston North End 4-2, but letting in quite a few goals. Poor form coming into this World Cup. They need a massive turn in form in December and January because I think at the moment they're going to be in my bottom three. Next is Hull City. I know Hull City fans won't be happy about this, but I've got massive reservations about that defence. They are leaking goals at a bad rate. They've obviously changed the manager, and under Rossini so far they've looked okay. They did pull out a good win away at Cardiff, and frustrating to lose at home to Reading in the way that they did. But like I say, the defence is the issue for me. They seem to have enough goal power to stay in the division, but it's the defence that needs improvement. But the way in which they're conceding goals and the fact they're really struggling for back-to-back wins and real rhythm and form, I think Hull City could be a side that gets sucked into that bottom three. The other side I've gone for is Cardiff City. I'd be surprised to see Cardiff go down, but at this point I actually think they could, to be honest. I know they've been in the championship for quite a long time, but coming into the World Cup break they lost 3 of their last 4 games, and I don't think there's an actual identity there for me to say this is what they're going to do and this is how they're going to stay up. I think Cardiff City could be in real trouble. Moving into the clubs I think are going to be alright this season and just stay up, I'm going to go for Wigan Athletic, Rotherham United and Bristol City. Now let's start with Wigan Athletic. Just coming up, they had a decent start. They have fallen back down towards that bottom three, but then it was a massive win against Blackpool just before the World Cup break. They had to do it the hard way, coming from behind, and like I say, they did have a man advantage. Just before that though, they were in terrible form. I think it was just 1 win in the last 10 games, and even watching them against Coventry, I didn't think they were great. They're certainly competitive and do look capable of being better than 3 teams this season, and that's the main thing as a newly promoted side. Wigan just need to stay up and then consolidate. And also the same could be said for Rotherham United, who've had a fantastic start to the season. Recently they picked up not so many great results, but the last 2 games were pretty good. They got a win at Sheffield United. It was frustrating how they dropped points late on against Luton Town away. So Rotherham United are doing much better than anyone, including myself, predicted at the start of the season, considering they'd been a yo-yo club. But even after Paul Warne's gone, I still look at Rotherham and what they've done so far and think they've built up enough points. Just keep chucking them on as and when, and I think they'll stay clear of that bottom 3. Next up I went for Bristol City, and this wouldn't be so good for them because they're more of a regular championship club and want to be looking up the table rather than just surviving. They've got goal power in that team, and they're certainly going to be good enough to stay out of the bottom 3 in my opinion, but under Nigel Pearson I don't really see them going that far up the division. Maybe a change could come during the season because I don't really see what direction they're travelling in under Nigel Pearson. The next clubs I've gone for are Huddersfield Town, Reading, Stoke City and Swansea City. Huddersfield Town, this would be a big jump because they are bottom at the moment and they're the only team under a point per game. But since that bad start, I'm starting to see gradual improvements. I'm not saying they're going to blast out the bottom 3 during December, but I can see them chipping on enough points for them to stay in contention, and I could just see them climbing up the table a little bit when other teams go through worse form. So at Huddersfield, obviously a very frustrating one after last season, nearly getting promoted, but there's plenty of quality there. I still think Lee Nichols is one of the best goalkeepers in the championship. Good fan base. I think they are maybe going to start climbing the table in the second half of the season. The next club I've gone for is Reading. Yes, I know this isn't great considering the good start they got off to this season, but bear in mind at the start of the season a lot of people didn't expect them to do very well, and a lot of people put them in their bottom 3 at the start of the season. I didn't. I put them about 20th. I think they've done much better than what I thought anyway, and I do see them maybe slightly falling down the table, but they did pull out a big win away at Hull just before the World Cup. So under Paul Ince, I think Reading are going to be alright this season, but I don't quite see them maintaining a playoff push. Next is Stoke City, and for me they are the middle team. I don't see them being involved in a relegation battle unless they go through a really bad run, and I don't quite see them maintaining a playoff push either. I think Stoke City are quite comfortably an inconsistent team that I'm happy to put in mid-table. The next team I went for was Swansea City. This is a tricky one for me, and I do like Swansea in their style of play and the manager and the players they've got there. They're actually quite a good club, but in recent weeks draws have started to feed into their results, not many wins, and obviously that's seeing them slip away from the playoff race. Obviously they had a good burst just to get into the playoffs, but unless something improves and they have another good run, they're slowly trickling towards that bottom half. So Swansea do need a big push in the second half of the season, because a lot of us thought they were going to put it together this season under Russell Martin, and if they don't, questions have got to be asked. Next up, I'm going to go for the mid-table teams that I would say are playoff outsiders. I'm going to start with Preston North End. Now, to finish 14th wouldn't be amazing for Preston North End, considering their pretty decent start, but I'm not too sure what direction they're going in, because they started as this really strongly defensive-minded team where they were just grinding out 0-0s and the 1-0 wins, and I thought, okay, well, they're not losing many games, they're in there. And then they did go on a good winning run, but goals have started to go in. They conceded 4 against Millwall and 4 away to Blackpool. But with Preston North End having a striker like Emil Reece-Jacobson, I do think they are obviously going to get enough goals to maintain a possible outside playoff chance. The next team is Birmingham City. They've done much better than anyone expected this season, I've got to say. Even Birmingham fans probably didn't expect them to be in the mid-table segment, even looking up towards the playoffs. I don't think they're actually going to have to worry about relegation this season, because under John Eustace, I think Birmingham City have been extremely solid. They're not really getting thrashed in any games, even against the top teams. They're quite tight and competitive, and with Deeney and Hogan and the good midfield players they've got, I think Birmingham City could finish actually in the top half this season. I also think with the likes of Dean, Trusty, Sanderson and Longello and John Ruddy in goal, Birmingham City look quite solid at the back, so a pretty good team, and I could see them getting in the top half this season. In the top half then, I have gone for Sunderland. Sunderland, I think, are slap bang in the middle at the moment, and it could go either way at this point. But under Tony Mowbray, and especially with that January transfer window coming up, I think he's going to be able to bring in his kind of players. And obviously with the likes of Ellis Sims and Diallo, who was fantastic against Birmingham, I think Sunderland could be looking up the table rather than worrying about looking down. Just above them, I've gone for Queen's Park Rangers. Queen's Park Rangers had a fantastic start to the season, but the World Cup probably came at a good time for them because they were really losing games at a bad rate. I obviously just got to see them just before that World Cup break when they played Coventry. They weren't terrible, but they just can't take their chances and didn't create enough golden opportunities. They were reduced to some shots from distance, and defensively we were able to breach them, of course. And I do think with Beale, they've got a good manager. It just seems to have gone wrong since he got linked with that job. I think QPR will maintain a top half finish and possibly still maybe make the playoffs. So yes, I have gone for West Bromwich Albion to actually make the top 10. That's the biggest move in the current table compared to the table I'm going for here. I do think West Bromwich Albion are going to start shooting up the table. They've finally got a good manager who looks like he could get the best out of the players they've got there. And obviously I've said for a while their expected goals says they should be in the playoffs. Obviously this poor start to the season could cost them in the long run actually making a top 6 finish. But if my prediction's close to being true, I think they're going to make the top 10, and therefore they might have a chance of the top 6. So then, this is the battle for the playoffs. I've got Blackburn Rovers, Luton Town, Middlesbrough, Coventry and Millwall. We'll start with Blackburn Rovers, who have been fantastic so far this season. The World Cup probably came at a good time for them as well, because they had a good start. They only seem to win or lose, and there was a couple of defeats recently which weren't pretty. Against Coventry, I don't think they were very good, and especially against Burnley, they got swept aside. It did not look like first versus second. It looked like first versus a mid-table team, and maybe Blackburn might start regressing a little bit. Maybe not as far down as 12th or 13th, but I could maybe see them just miss out on the playoffs, because I look at their expected goals and what it says is Blackburn Rovers should be about 18th based on the chances they create. So obviously they're being clinical, but can they keep that up throughout the whole of the season? I don't think so. I think this will be a top 10 finish for Blackburn, but top 6 might be an ask, but they're in a very good position, I must say. Next up, we've gone for Luton Town. Now, Luton Town's a tricky one. Bear in mind, a couple of weeks ago, I was standing by, I think Luton Town should make the top 6, but with the manager changing, maybe not. I think it'll be close for Luton. With or without Nathan Jones, they've obviously got a good team, they create good chances, and they will make the top 10 for me. But without Nathan Jones, maybe they lose just a tiny bit of that identity and the core of that team. I still think with a good manager, they should be able to compete for the top 6, but maybe without Nathan Jones, they might just fall the wrong side of it. I'd like to see Luton in there again because that would be a great story. In 7th place, I'm going for Middlesbrough. Now, bear in mind, I was chopping and changing this a couple times during the video being made, and I can actually see Middlesbrough getting in now. I'll say 7th for now, but I might as well say 6th at the same time. Middlesbrough, for me, were always going to climb the table. They were not going to finish in that bottom 3 or even in that bottom half for me. I think now they've got Carrick and the results are starting to come in, you can see why they're shooting up the table. They're finally putting those chances away they were creating before. Like I say, their expected goal says they should be in the top 6. In fact, it says they should be in the top 2, which is quite something. So I think under Carrick this trend continues, despite the World Cup probably coming at not such a good time. But a crucial away win late on against Norwich just before the World Cup break does show how good this team can be. In 6th place, I've gone for Coventry. Now, I know a lot of people will say this is just because I'm a Coventry fan, but I think a lot of people that aren't Coventry fans will obviously say Coventry City are looking good for maybe a playoff push, even if we were to just fall on the outside of it. The thing for me that's filling me with confidence at the moment is how good our defence is. We've now got the best defence in the league. Along with Burnley, we're in the best form in the league. We've been really, really good. And like I say, the World Cup's not come at a great time, but if we can just keep doing what we were doing after the World Cup, we will continue a push towards the top 6. Bear in mind, we've still got 2 games in hand. There is obviously things going on with the stadium behind the scenes, but I don't think that massively will affect us because Coventry City have played under pressure before. We played all right at Northampton, brilliant at Birmingham, and since the pitch has been resolved at the CBS, we've started to win games as well, of course. So I think Coventry City could make it this time round. I don't think the squad's necessarily much different to last year, but we've grew in Championship experience and we're just that little bit more streetwise. We're winning games where we're not necessarily the best team. Now that is the sign of a good team. In 5th place, I've gone for Millwall. Now Millwall, for me, I think we're knocking on the door over the last couple of years, and I think this could just be the year where they get in there. I had a good feeling for Millwall this year. I said 6th at the start of the year, and I've just nudged them up to 5th with this updated prediction. They are currently 6th, and they look very good for it. They're very good at home. Their away form could do with improving, but they did get a crucial away win at Preston, and what a way to do it, winning 4-2. Their expected goals has them 7th, so that is very close to where they are. So they're obviously doing something right, and like I say, with that manager, that team, that crowd at home, I think everything is suggesting Millwall at least get top 8, and I'm going to say 5th place. So then on to my top 4. In 4th place, I've gone for Norwich City. 3rd place, Watford. 2nd place, Sheffield United, and top of the league, I've gone for Burnley. Starting with Norwich City, I must say, although I'm pretty confident they'll at least make the top 6, I'm not massively impressed considering at the start of the season I backed them for automatic promotion. They do look good to finish in the top 6, like I say, they've got enough quality and they're winning enough games, but there's so many points being dropped here, like for example against Middlesbrough just before the World Cup, where you think, well, an automatic promotion team wouldn't do that. I can see Norwich going on a good run after the World Cup when they get loads of games in, and obviously when their best players are all firing, but I think there's 3 better teams than Norwich this year. In 3rd place, I've gone for Watford. This is really tricky. I think Watford are so close to being an automatic promotion team, but just maybe not quite there. They've had a bit of a wonky start with a few bad results, but under Bilic things do look better. They drew 0-0 to Bristol City just before the World Cup, and they've been chucking on quite a few wins recently. I've watched Watford a couple of times this season, and I don't know if I'm coming or going with my opinions on them. I watched them on the opening day beat Sheffield United. I also saw them play against Burnley. I saw them lose to Coventry, but I saw them smash Luton. So I think on the whole, especially with the likes of João Pedro and Sarr, and I do rate Bachmann in goal and the defenders they've got, they are a top 3 team, but maybe not quite on that top 2 level. But like I say, under Bilic things are a bit better, so if Sheffield United or Burnley drop points, Watford will be right there to catch them. In 2nd place, I've gone for Sheffield United. I'm still standing by them getting automatic promotion. At the start of the season I said they'll win the league. Based on how good Burnley have been recently, I'm going to go for 2nd now for Sheffield United. But bear in mind, Sheffield United beat Burnley 5-2 not long ago. Sheffield United have been brilliant in this first half of the season. There was a little bad run they went on. I watched them lose to Coventry, and obviously they lost to the likes of Rotherham at home as well. So some not so good results in there for Sheffield United, but on the whole, pretty good. And I still think my prediction for automatic promotion for Sheffield United was a good one. Obviously, when you've got the likes of Sander Berge and Dye and Ollie McBurney, you're going to be battling battling at the top end of the division. And like I say, what's massive for Sheffield United is their fan base is obviously so influential for them. They're a very tricky team to beat at Bramall Lane, and I'm going to say Sheffield United still gets automatic promotion. So then, top of the league, I am going for Burnley. I just don't see much getting in the way of Burnley this season. I'll be honest and say at the start of the season, I didn't fancy Burnley to do as well as they have done, so I will put my hands up to that, but they have been fantastic. I'm especially surprised by how good Vincent Kompany is proving to be as a manager in the Championship. There's a long way to go, and you'll often find in the Championship even the top teams will have a bad little run, but other than the Sheffield United game, I can't think of too many occasions where Burnley were bad. I think they look very good, especially at home. The draws have turned into wins recently, which is what we said they needed to do. And I just think Burnley look unstoppable. Burnley are going to win the league. So then, guys, that is my Championship table predictions updated as of the 14th of November. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do make sure to drop a big thumbs up. Do subscribe as well. And I will see you for World Cup predictions tomorrow. Peace out.